Okay, we're live. Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast. I'm Chris Garner, joined with my co-host for today, Tayte in the Hour. Originally, we were meant to have Tom on this as well. He saw the movie with me, but unfortunately, he probably didn't want to talk about this movie any more than he did with me. So it's me and you, Tayte, to try and take on this colossal, just controversial movie that we have on our hands today. We are, of course, talking about the movie that everyone else is talking about, Ghostbusters 2016. I guess that we have to refer to it now because they chose to go with the same title.
Can we, before we go into anything, can we please just first say thank you ever so much for the recognition from the reactions, and I have to give credit to Chris because your reaction was on almost every single time. But yeah, this film has a lot riding on its shoulders and a lot weighing it down. So let's see how we kind of saw it.
Yeah, and just sort of going off what you said about the reactions as well, I want to just say thank you to everyone who watched it, shared it, commented on it. I think, is it our most watched video on the channel? I think last time it was like at 25,000 or something, but it's amazing how that blew up. But it was kind of nice. It was almost like a shared support group for Ghostbusters fans when this trailer was coming out. And also it got to the stage where I think it was the Angry Video Game Nerd did a video on his channel saying how he was going to completely boycott the movie. He's a massive Ghostbusters fan, and he knew it was going to be terrible. And he was like, that's not my Ghostbusters. I know it's going to be bad. I'm not going to pay money and support Sony and support films like this. Whereas I'm with the attitude of, if you're a critic, if you're any kind of movie reviewer, there's always that glimmer of hope. Even no matter how bad all the trailers are and featurettes and things like that, there's always that hope, and you sit in that theater, the movie comes on, and you're like, okay, this could surprise me. Because I have been surprised by movies in the past based on trailers, but let's just go straight into this one. So as always, our movie reviews, we start off spoiler-free, and then when we get to spoilers later on down the line, we'll prep you. But yeah, this one, we were almost deciding whether to not go and see it ourselves.
But in fact, a lot of people on YouTube were saying, "Don't go see this movie. Don't go give them money."
Yeah.
I'm a Cineworld Unlimited card holder, so I could just walk in for free, which is my reasoning. I'm not sure what your reasoning is, Chris, for giving money to this movie.
Yeah. I am £9 less after this movie, and you know what? Do I regret seeing it? Kind of, but it was also morbid curiosity more than anything else with this one. I think I mentioned that in my reaction. You knew it was going to be bad, but it was just that you needed to see how bad it was going to be. Or maybe it was going to be so bad it was good. But anyway, let's get into our reaction now. So I think the best place to start off with is kind of what this movie was trying to do in itself, being a remake / reboot. It's almost like a soft reboot.
I have to say that the first trailer showed it as being a sequel. It was like 30 years on.
It was like
anything.
New York, yeah.
It doesn't really spoil anything by saying that this film goes immediately away from that entire narrative, and like it's not a sequel. It's definitely not a sequel. It is a complete reboot. They try and say that it's its own story. It is its own story in its own right. However, it is a complete reboot of the Ghostbusters franchise. And I say franchise because this film sequel baits to the hell.
Oh, yes, it does.
It really does.
Oh, yes.
And we're not even spoiling anything here by saying that, because it was pretty obvious the kind of film that it was pitching to be in the first place. Without even seeing the film, okay, doesn't look like it's going to be a sequel. Okay, it's going to sequel bait as hell because they know it's going to make money. And I believe it lost out in the first week of cinema to Secret Life of Pets, which is doing stupendously well. Really surprised about that. That seems to be getting a lot of kind of hype around it at the moment, and this film kind of came second in that run. But to be honest, I have to say my going into this film, so how I thought about it going into it, was I had less than zero expectations. I was expecting it to be goddamn awful. I really was. And like from the trailers, from all the hype, from all the press going behind it, I even found out the ending before I went to go see it, because someone posted just a sentence online which explained the ending, and I thought, dear Lord, I really hope that isn't it.
And I'm actually so glad that you prepped me for that, because God knows what my reaction would have been if I was witnessing that firsthand. Honestly.
Oh boy.
So I'll go into my thoughts, and if you want to watch my reactions I've done on the trailers, I sort of go much more in depth into my history with Ghostbusters and everything like that. I'll condense it for this though. Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Ivan Reitman. Ghostbusters 1, and I even like 2. A lot of people don't like 2, and it's not as good as the first one. Yeah, absolutely. Man, it's one of my favorite 80s movies of all time. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time. The concept of the original Ghostbusters was so unique, and at the heart of it, why it worked for me was that you had 3 great comedians together with Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson all together, and their chemistry all together just worked perfectly. Fantastic comedians across the board, and that was really the strength of Ghostbusters for me. And growing up also, I had the toys, I had the car which made the noise, the siren. I think it was around the time the cartoon came out, the real Ghostbusters. I remember having a Slimer toy, and I had one of the Ghostbusters with the proton pack. And I watched the first Ghostbusters recently. I watched it the day before I went to see the new one, and it still completely holds up. The effects in it are fantastic.
Oh, it does hold up.
The comedy's still amazing.
I'd say the effects don't hold up as much, but the comedy definitely does.
The effects are a bit shaky. There's some scenes with like Slimer which were done with a puppet and a lot of the ghosts, and they still look fantastic.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
It's some of the stop motion stuff with the Zool dogs, which I think they were rushed for time on those a bit, and they're a bit shaky. But I mean, you look past that completely because it's just such a good comedy film, and the characters are just so likable and work off each other well. And that's why I like Ghostbusters 2 as well. So for this one,
I have to say though, quickly before we even go into the talking about the new Ghost, well, very quickly on the new Ghostbusters, you have a look at the cast. It isn't a bad cast
for the new one. Yeah.
The new one, it really isn't. That I don't think that was what the problem was that people were complaining online. A lot of people saying, "Oh my god, it's just a gender bend." Oh no.
We need to talk about that as well. Yeah,
it's that kind of ruined it for me slightly because it was the whole idea of okay, you're just taking an idea and you're flipping it on its head. Like you wouldn't want to see a Mean Girls with just men, would you?
No, exactly, and
just really weird. And I don't think that people who appreciate Mean Girls would appreciate the film if it was re-released like that.
No.
However, the other problem was that they were remaking a classic, and they've started doing it nowadays. They've got an Ocean's 11 reboot going up again. They got the Magnificent Seven, which is a reboot of, which is a remake of the Magnificent Seven, which is a remake of the Seven Samurai. So we're getting a chain now of different remakes.
Ben-Hur as well, which I think is the third film version of Ben-Hur we've had.
We had RoboFlop last year. It's just like all of these different films coming out. But this one actually boasted a good.
My 80s movies, goddammit! Leave the 80s movies alone.
It had a good cast. I'm pretty sure that all of them, except for Chris Hemsworth, are Saturday Night Live alumni, and they were the original Ghostbusters. They all were. I'm pretty sure that all of them were on Saturday Night Live at least once before the Ghostbusters came out. So I have to say that it was boasting a good cast, and the comedy present before going in, you think, yeah, it's got some good talent in there. Maybe they could pull it off. But after seeing the trailer, you're just like, no, okay, no. They've forced jokes and stuff like that from the trailer, and they do carry into the film, and it doesn't help it at all.
Well, actually, what we should... Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, no, you go on.
I was just saying, what we should talk about as well is just sort of the concept of a Ghostbusters 3 in the first place. I mean, this has been talked about for years.
Years,
decades. This has been floating around. Dan Aykroyd...
longer than I've been alive.
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd's been a huge proponent of it. He's been trying to get it off the ground for years. He's been trying to bring all the original cast back when they were still alive. Then that video game came out. I can't remember which year it came out. It was on PS3, and that was almost...
I want to say 2009.
Yeah, I think it was 2000. Yeah. That was like the unofficial Ghostbusters 3 for a lot of people. It brought all the original cast back, provided the voice for it, and it was a sequel to Ghostbusters 2. It paid homage to the first one, but it was its own story. I never played all of that game myself. I remember playing the demo, but it was fantastic, and a lot of people sort of left it there. Then talks kept coming back up, and I remember Bill Murray in some interviews and stuff would always keep the dream alive almost and say, we'll never say never. And then a couple of years ago, tragically, Harold Ramis died, and that was practically the nail in the coffin for the franchise. You can't have, you know, Ghostbusters without Egon. You just can't. You can't do it. And then this idea came out where it's a remake, and that's sort of like a trend now, whether it's not a remake, but it's like a soft reboot. You've had your Mad Max Fury Road, Star Wars The Force Awakens, probably the best and most successful example of that. And
I'm sorry. Did you just say that Star Wars The Force Awakens was good?
I didn't say it was good, but I mean in terms of the audience. I see what you're trying to do there. No. No, just because I'm fresh off Star Wars Celebration doesn't mean I've changed my mind.
Go watch our Force Awakens review where Chris lays into it pretty hard.
Yeah, and you, like, I fell out with you for like a week after that because you hated me.
But let's go into, like, okay, so first instincts, first reactions, first impressions.
Okay, well, just before that, can I just talk about like the director in general? Sure. Hadn't seen any of these women before in anything. I haven't watched what is it, Spy? What are some of the other ones that Paul Feig's done? I'm just having a look at it.
I'm just having a look. Bridesmaids. I've seen Bridesmaids.
Yeah, Bridesmaids, The Heat.
Things like Peanuts movie. I liked Peanuts movie.
I still need to see Peanuts movie, but in terms of like the ones where he's used this cast before, I haven't seen any of them.
It's Spy and it was. I'm not gonna lie, this film was like Bridesmaids too. It really was.
People have been recommending Bridesmaids to me. I haven't got around to watching that, but so this was my first viewing, my first impression of all these actors working off each other. And from the trailer, the chemistry was just off. It felt like, and when you watch the movie, you get this sense as well. It's almost like Paul Feig just lets the camera roll and they improvise. There's a lot of jokes in this film that feel like Family Guy humor, where they keep beating the joke into the ground, just keep it going like for 5 minutes.
A dead horse.
And it just goes on too long. Nothing against these women at all. I'm sure they're all great comedians in other films, but this was just a case of the writing. The writing of this movie was absolutely horrendous. There were no jokes in this film. All the natural, deadpan, sarcastic, witty dialogue from the first one is non-existent in this movie. And you're right, when going back to what you said about the trailer, where in the first trailer it was saying like it was setting it up like it was a sequel. With 30 years later, 30 years ago, 4 scientists saved New York. This time, these are taking up the mantle. And then they flip-flop that in the new trailer, and what we get now, this is a straight-up remake, as you said at the beginning. They get all a brand new origin story. This is not connected to the original at all. So with that, and kind of going into my initial impressions, who is this movie made for? Who is it made for? Because it's not made for the original fans, because it's not continuing it on, and it's just void of anything from that original. And for like a new generation watching it, would they even care about Ghostbusters? Is it a property that can be rebooted and revitalized to a new audience?
This film was made to make money and money alone. It wasn't made to cater to any fans or anything like that. They tried in some areas just so that they could possibly get them to watch another film if it's a sequel. But this film, I'm guessing, was trying to be aimed at a new audience. However, I'm not sure what audience it was trying to target. I assume it was trying to get. I'm going to be try and say this in the most PC way possible, but it was trying to get women and female viewers to watch like a sci-fi comedy.
Yeah.
Or try and test the market, maybe test the waters to see how far they could push gender statistics in films. Because if you have a look at them, they are skewed to some extent. Star Wars is a complete anomaly, which I can only put down to the fact that Star Wars is just global. But if you look at the smaller films like Ex Machina, it was overwhelmingly viewed by male participants. So you've got to look at the differences there. Seeing as this is a very popular it's coming from a very popular franchise, it's obviously going to garner a lot more attention, especially if they're marketing it as... which a lot of people have been saying online, they're marketing it to the female audience. I feel like they were in some cases, but I also feel like they were still trying to get people to just watch the film out of money purposes alone. My first impressions, I'm not going to lie, Chris, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
That seems to be the general like review I've heard from most people, and that's what I went in with. But continue with your initial impressions, and I'll bring mine up after.
Don't get me wrong; it's god awful. But if it wasn't good,
I'm glad you had to clarify that. You should have opened with that.
It's the Transformers 4 of the Ghostbusters franchise. I'd say that I am a fan of. I actually am a fan of Ghostbusters 2. But if I was going to say it would be like Transformers 2. Transformers is a really, really bad kind of like thing to use here. But if we were saying this film, some of the jokes landed. I agreed with some of the characters, and I enjoyed some parts of the film. However, some parts maybe amount to about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes out of an hour and a half film. That doesn't make it a good film. But
it's 2 hours, 10 minutes, I think, isn't it?
I'm unsure.
It's just under 2 hours, sorry. Just under 2 hours.
I like to clarify. I'd like to clarify right here, right now, and I think you might be the same as well still. It isn't the worst film I've seen this year.
Oh. See, as I was watching the film, I know what film you're referring to, and we will get to a review for that at some point. But as I was watching this film, I was kind of trying to weigh it up with the other terrible films I've seen this year. The most recent one I can remember, other than that one, which I think we're keeping a secret, aren't we? Have we kept it a secret as to what the review is?
Not really.
But okay, High Rise. I hated High Rise and Independence Day Resurgence. So they're probably two of the worst films I've seen this year.
Yeah.
This one, see, because it was so divorced from the original Ghostbusters, and I knew it was going to be bad deep down, I didn't really get offended from it. But it was absolutely abysmal. It was a colossal pile of shit. It was awful in every single conceivable way I can think of.
I will argue with that on 10 minutes of the film.
Okay. To me, it failed as an action film. It failed as a comedy. Yeah. It failed as a sci-fi. Everything this film was going for, it failed on.
It didn't fail on controversy.
No, absolutely not. And I think it's one of the most disliked movie trailers of all time, isn't it?
It is the most disliked movie trailer of all time.
And what I've been seeing as well from like actual movie reviewers who have sort of, even if they just give your review where they didn't like it, but they say it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, I enjoyed this, this, and this, it's still getting dislikes. Like the dislike crowd is still that huge.
I would happily make arguments for the certain areas in which the film where I did chuckle to myself because they were humor moments.
Yeah.
But everything about the film's plot, where it was going, the pacing, everything about this film was done wrong.
Yeah, the pacing was awful. It felt like it was 3 hours long. It really did to me. And I think it's like just 10 minutes longer, or it's roughly the same length as the first Ghostbusters film, but the pacing to the first Ghostbusters film is fantastic. I feel like I could go longer on the first Ghostbusters film, actually. But before I sort of get more in depth into it, can I just sort of go off your point, what you were talking about, the gender stuff?
Yeah, sure.
What I feel like with this movie is, and what I've seen a lot of people saying is, if they don't like the film, people are just jumping at them and saying, oh, you know, you're a misogynist, you just don't like it because it's female Ghostbusters. And they always seem to take that moral high ground with it. And that's not the case at all. That's not what I'm saying.
Even slightly. Go watch the film, you'll realize that it's actually not that good.
Yeah, as I said, I'm sure all these women are fantastic in all their other comedy films. I haven't seen them myself, but I'm sure they're great.
Bridesmaids. I said it was Bridesmaids too. Bridesmaids is a half decent film. I'm not the biggest fan. But as far as like, I'd say grouped chick flick films, it would go Mean Girls, then Bridesmaids. So it's not that bad. But if it was the Bridesmaids 2, it wasn't it was like Bridesmaids 2's bad film. You know, when films have really, really bad sequels, it was this.
Yeah. What I disliked about the whole idea of it was more from Sony's stance and how they marketed it. Because a lot of people are just describing this as the female Ghostbusters. It's a marketing ploy. It is a gimmick. It really is. there was no sort of story reason or character reason why the entire cast had to be female. It was just a way of going, it's Ghostbusters, but we're doing something
different. Chris, you
cut
out there.
Oh, did I cut out? Am I good? Am I good? Hello? Are we still live?
You cut out for about 10 seconds, dude.
Oh, okay, no worries. Am I back now?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, okay. It just seemed like it was a kind of thing where they were going, this is Ghostbusters, but we're changing it up. We're doing it like this now, and instead we've got an all-female cast, and that's what I kind of resented as how they put it across. It was a really sort of just cheap, gimmicky ploy. And also just like the concept of what they're doing with Ghostbusters. Like I mentioned earlier that I don't know, the tone of this is all over the place. Like, well, actually, no, the tone's very consistent. It's Ghostbusters for toddlers is what it is. But I don't get sort of what it's trying to be. Is it trying to be an action movie? Is it trying to be a girl power movie? Because if that's the case, and if it's going with that, that's not what the original Ghostbusters was. It wasn't like this macho action flick from the 80s. It was about just 4 regular blue-collar guys going into business for themselves, the kind of schlubby, they just winging it basically all the way through the entire film. And for some reason, these everyday folks just become superheroes at the end of the movie, essentially, and save New York. That's what the movie's about. You didn't need all this action, and I mean, this is in clips and stuff where they've got the proton packs and they're doing cartwheels and lassoing ghosts into other ghosts. That's not what Ghostbusters ever was, and it feels like a confused mess of a film. And if I'm gonna just pinpoint the fault of this movie, it's down to the script and it's down to the direction. You see Paul Feig in interviews, he does not get this property. He does at all. He's kind of an idiot, in all honesty. I'm going to say it. He really just doesn't get the point of Ghostbusters.
The cast are having to defend it right now. However, I feel like they're going to do a... who's the guy who played Robert Pattinson? As soon as the franchise is over, he's going to slate it. And I feel like they're going to do that with this film. I know they're trying to defend their own film at the moment because it's still making them money. They don't want to slag it off because they know there are sequels coming. But as soon as it ends, that's it. They're just going to go for it. But let's go into the characters quickly because this is one of the, in fact, 2 areas where I find the film, I would say, shone. Really, really liberal with that, but...
shone is not the word I would use.
Okay, this is where you could see a tiny little light amongst the just the film. 2 characters, I'd say, pushing free, who really did try their hardest for this film, and I feel like they could be something good to work on if the script is nailed down. And those would go to Kate McKinnon's Gillian Holtzman, who had a couple of good moments in the film. The Pringles joke, I actually burst out laughing. A lot of people in my cinema did. Seriously, dude, it caught me off guard.
Absolute product placement.
Dude, I didn't even care because it was more of, oh my god. Okay, that's funny.
These are meant to be professional scientists, so they're eating Pringles while doing their experiments.
No, she is not a professional scientist. She is a mad scientist, and they need that kind of character. If they're going to reinvent the franchise, a mad scientist as part of the team is a good way to go. Let's just say that. Because she did have a good moment. The moments in the trailer where she was licking the gun, I was dreading seeing that moment, and I dreaded seeing it again. Just didn't fit the character even slightly. I know she's mad and all, but I'd say that the way that she delivered her lines and how crazy she was in the film, she brought something to the film. Just something. And then finally, I liked Kristen Wiig in some areas playing Erin Gilbert, just because she was the kind of the stone-faced kind of, oh, we got to do things this way, we got to do things this way, and then she tries to loosen up. It's very much like her character in Bridesmaids, which I quite liked. But I'd say that like those 2 areas of the film, character-wise, were pretty good. Pushing Chris Hemsworth because damn if he wasn't terrible in the final act.
He was throughout. He was awful throughout, and I don't blame him. I really don't blame him. When he's got material to work with, like, oh, it's a hot dog above a house because it's a ghost holding a hot dog. When he's got dialogue like that, The wasted
I,
talent.
I liked his different ways that he answered the phone, though. That is the one area where I think he shone.
Okay, I'm going to agree with one point that you just made about the characters.
Go on.
Kate McKinnon's character of Gillian Holtzman was my favorite character throughout because she felt like the only one playing a character.
Yes.
She had a personality, she had a trait, she had a quirk, and I liked it. She was a character I wanted to know more about and get to know more. Just sort of her whole mannerisms, the way she carried herself, everything like that was kind of fun to watch. Her jokes were still really bad, but I liked the attitude of her. She was actually playing a character, and if this had a better writing, she could have been a character that may have even been comparable to a character from the original Ghostbusters. That's like maybe if she was like feisty and headstrong, she'd be a lot like the I can't remember her name. God, it's been ages since I watched it and remember the names, but the secretary in Ghostbusters 1 and 2. How she's very sort of like wisecracking and she sticks up for herself. That could have been a character like that. And oh god, the other character I kind of liked, and I don't know why, was Leslie Jones's Patty Tullen. Now we need to bring this up because in the trailer,
it's that one line. It's that one. I'm sorry, but the one line from the trailer actually sums up her character completely. I don't know if it's a woman thing or a black thing, but I'm mad as hell. And Leslie Jones, you're just not funny. It's neither of those two. She was the unfunniest character in the entire film.
No.
It felt forced.
Oh, it was forced.
Everything about her character was bad. And everything, in fact, her joining the Ghostbusters, it just made no sense at all.
Yeah. That's bad screenwriting. She just randomly joins them. But to me, I was kind of laughing at her because of just the sheer disbelief of what this movie was getting away with. She's completely just a stereotype. She's reduced to a stereotype. She's loud.
And that's why. It's so unfunny because of that.
She's loud, she's shouty, she's obnoxious, and it kind of reminds me, I love Anthony Anderson, so I can't rail against the guy too much, but like, you go back to Transformers. In the first Transformers, he's like, don't stand on my grandmama's carpet, no one can stand on my grandmama's carpet. It was kind of like that. But just the lines in it and how, like, we're in 2016 now, and we're still having characters like this. I was laughing at the character, but more for, oh God, they're actually doing this. Like, am I allowed to laugh at this?
But like South Park humor. But the problem is South Park humor has good writing, and this did not have good writing.
Well, that's for every character, but towards like the end of the movie, I found myself kind of rooting for her character because she felt the most human towards the end. Like, she wasn't really playing so much of a caricature at the end. She did feel more like a real person. God, it's really hard for me to find something positive for this movie.
Okay, can we just ignore Melissa McCarthy completely because I don't really want to talk about her character even slightly? Yeah,
absolutely. She was kind of playing the what's his name, Dan Aykroyd character, like the one who's really into ghost hunting and stuff. But yeah, it's Melissa McCarthy playing McCarthy. Absolutely. Chris Hemsworth, you sort of mentioned him. I thought he was abysmal. That's nothing against Chris Hemsworth. We've seen him in other stuff. Great. A lot of people are saying that he shows good comedic chops in this film, and he could do more comedies.
I'd say that the good comedic chop came from the phone calls. That was it.
I'm trying to think of times I actually laughed in this film, and I think I chuckled about 2 or 3 times, and I can't remember what any of those jokes were. It may have been that my standards and just the humor level was so low that a joke I wouldn't normally laugh at made me chuckle. But this really isn't a comedy. There are no jokes in this film. It's just really just awkward wordplay. It's really, really nothing. And unfortunately, I hate being in cinemas like this, especially when I went to see Transformers 3, where it's so desperately unfunny, but all the people in your audience are laughing.
We had one person laughing overly loud in our cinema, and every now and then everyone would just turn around and look at this person, they'd stop. It was quite funny.
Really? Really? We're laughing.
Seriously, yo? It wasn't even starting yet, you're laughing. What's going on? The comedy failed in most areas. The action failed in almost every area. I'm sorry, but
about the action,
there wasn't much. But
The entire third act was an action sequence. What are you talking about?
The end. I know, but we can't really talk about that without infringing spoilers. Let's just say for this time,
it's all in the trailer,
except for the fine. Okay, so the punching ghost bit and the defeating ghost bit, that just made no sense. The Ghostbusters are not ghost fighters. What they do in the film, like obviously they cross the streams, they capture the ghosts at the like the end of the first film. They don't kill the ghost; they just capture it and stick it in the vault. Because that's what they do. They are the Ghostbusters. They don't go around punching ghosts. And I think one of the lines in the film was, "I think I just punched a pilgrim," and it's just like, wop wop. But like everything, the action in this film was just not good at all. The comedy was good in some areas, but the action was a lot worse.
I hated the effects in this film. Absolutely hated it. And this all goes to the tone. And a lot of people have been saying this, and I completely agree with them, especially the opening of the film, which I'm not going to give away. I'll save it for spoilers. But the opening of this film, it's something like straight out of Haunted Mansion or Scooby-Doo. It really is.
Do you know what? That opening sequence I quite liked. I was thinking, yeah, this is proper old school Scooby-Doo. And if it was like a Scooby-Doo kind of film, I wouldn't mind it at all. And that opening
Scooby-Doo 3, fine. Absolutely fine.
If that opening sequence, I thought it was quite funny. I thought it was like, yeah, that's kind of the Ghostbusters humor we're aiming for, and then it immediately went away. Immediately, all went away.
But that opening scene, I was just waiting for like Shaggy to walk in and go like "Zoink Scoob" or something like that. It was just, but just how the visuals, like how the ghosts look, and you see this in the trailer. They're all very bright, shrouded in neon colors. Nothing feels real. Nothing feels scary. And going back to the original two Ghostbusters, it is a comedy, yes, but it also balances moments of horror. The opening scene in Ghostbusters 1 of the library ghost, that used to terrify me as a kid. And watching it now, it's funny, but the music as well.
I mean, Zul was, as far as the villain goes, like the two dogs, like they were scary as hell.
Yeah,
like, there was nothing scary in this film. Everything was like, child friendly. That's not frightening even slightly. The closest we got to frightened was the electrocuted ghost.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. But the way that he was introduced, no jump scare or anything like that, no tension built. Just like, oh hey, look, there's a ghost.
I don't think you need a jump scare, because I always talk about jump scares in horror films. I think they're a really cheap way to scare people. It's just about atmosphere, and if going back to Ghostbusters 1, like the Elmer Bernstein score, like very weird synth, creepy, haunted music. It really works, and obviously you have like your quirky, funny music in it too, but it does straddle the line between moments of horror and comedy, and that's what this one could have tried to go for. But I think it's a lot down to just doing all your ghosts in CGI. It really just takes the realism away. Ghostbusters 1 and 2 had very, very, very few visual effects. I think even in Ghostbusters 2, they didn't use any visual effects. It was all done, all like special effects, like in terms of computer. It was all done with puppets, and they would add the shroud around it, and that's fair enough. But it was tangible. You look at Slimer in Ghostbusters 1 and 2 and compare him to how he looks in this one, and it's night and day. You're always going to go with that original Slimer. It still looks fantastic. I think two people were operating that puppet. And this, it's too like glossy, it's too digital, it's too shiny, and it really takes the grit away from it. And so when we get to action,
it makes it look like a video game instead of it making it look like reality.
Exactly. And you know what? It looks worse than the video game that came out in 2009.
It does. It really does.
And just the action, right? Like all these characters doing flips and just all this crazy, outlandish superhero-like stuff. It really just. It wasn't but that is not Ghostbusters. What this movie results to.
Like the goblin or dragon or whatever it was, ghost
it was like
that was just horrible.
That was the pterodactyl ghost from Scooby-Doo 2.
I'm pretty sure it was, but I'm pretty sure that they did it better in Scooby-Doo Monsters Unleashed in like 2002 or whenever that film came out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw all that clip in the trailer, so. Actually, there was a lot of lines from the trailer that didn't make it into the final movie, which makes me wonder if they went back and edited this really fairly recently, and after seeing the feedback, and, like removing stuff. the one line that comes to mind, which made me kind of laugh in the trailer again, I've already mentioned it with Leslie Jones's character, where she introduces the car to them, and she goes like, "It's a Cadillac." That's not in the movie. Like, there's a lot of new lines cut out here and there, and moments as well. And I'll get to it in spoilers, but there's a moment that's set up at the end with Chris Hemsworth character, and it looks like it's about to go into a certain kind of scene, and it just doesn't happen. And I've seen a lot of reviewers talk about that scene, and it is really weird, which makes me think that there was a lot of stuff left on the cutting room floor. Or
yeah, there was one entire scene cut from the film, and oh my god, thank God it was.
Yes, I think.
Oh my god,
the same bit. It was used in the credits, though. If it's the scene I think you're referring to.
Yeah, that's the scene.
Yeah. So that's sort of the action, really. You can talk about cinematography if you want, but it's really.
It wasn't much.
I tell you what, the best description I've seen of this film is that it feels like a Saturday Night Live parody of Ghostbusters. Or it feels like, you know, one of those epic movie, date movie, disaster movie. It feels like one of those for Ghostbusters. And it really does. It's got the same level of humor as one of those movies. That's kind of the best way I can describe it.
I have the question. How on earth has it managed to get a 60% rating? How has it managed to get a 72% rating from critics? How has it done that?
How has it managed to get $64.1 million already at the box office?
No, I can understand that. I can understand that. Because people will probably want to go see it to see how bad it really was.
Yeah.
And I can understand some of the reviewers. I mean, I'm a fan of Commode. I disagree with him on two films, High Rise, which he liked, and this film, which he liked. And the reasoning why he said that was because he said, "Oh, it's like Bridesmaids. Oh, the comedy's back. Oh, it's actually quite good. It shows all the haters that like it's actually a good film." No, it's terrible. I don't know what he was talking about. I'm not sure what film he watched because it really wasn't that good. And I know that Empire gave it a 3-star review. They had the director as their guest editor the month before. That's why it wasn't given a 1-star.
Yeah, there's a lot of politics going behind the scenes with a lot of these reviews, I think. I really do. What else can we talk about? The music.
The music was forgettable, not going to lie.
It's generic action music, and, you know, the original Ghostbusters theme does make an appearance here and there. They kind of...
Piano, okay, we both agreed that the piano was really good from the first trailer.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the best bits.
Actually, I think it... Oh, no, actually, no. No, I won't.
And then they use it on one piano chord in the entire film. Yeah. They could have had it as the underlying theme for the film, and it would have been amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they do have the main theme in it, but they've modernized it. They've dubstep.
My God. Fallout Boy, look. Yeah. Whatever they did to that song, they butchered it. They really did. Like, I was listening to it, I was thinking, Jesus Christ, really? That is god-awful. Like, you remake the film, it's shoddy. You remake the song, and you butcher it. It's just, there were elements of this film which worked, and there are elements of this film which seriously did not.
Well, we do say that,
seriously didn't.
We do say that they were trying to remake this film, but my God, this movie loves to keep you reminding you every second that the first happened.
I'd say that this film is this year's Fan Four Stick.
Ooh. In terms of summer movies, I'd probably agree with you. I mean,
franchise being brought back. I wouldn't say it looks good in the trailers, but goes for a slightly darker tone, doesn't end up being one, and it flops.
I actually think that this film could have really benefited if it had just gone all out dark. Like, I know I keep saying, like, not everything needs to be dark, but can you imagine, like, a genuinely terrifying Ghostbusters movie? Like, it would be something different. You could still have comedy elements in it, but I mean, just go for it with the ghosts, man. Just go for it.
Or they could have gone all out comedy. Like, they could have really gone all out comedy. Like, seriously, over the top wacky. But they didn't. They stayed safe.
I would say this went wacky on a number of occasions, actually.
It went wacky, but it didn't stay wacky. It was like wacky, safe, 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 wacky, safe. It just didn't work.
Because we've been ranting on this film for quite a long time, and we need to get to spoilers now because we've still got a lot to talk about in spoilers. Tate, we're going to change it up with this one. I want you to give me 3 positive things about this movie, if you can, and negatives, and just sort of general consensus on whether you recommend this film.
3 positives.
If you can.
Holtzman.
Yep.
Wig. And that one piano riff. Negatives. The entire rest of the film. The trailer for the film.
You're stealing all my picks, Tate.
And the concept of the film.
For me, I've got... Oh, jeez. Why did I say pick 3? I'm going to struggle with this. I agree with you there. Was it Holtzman? Yeah. Was an interesting character. Wasn't completely fully realized in this movie, but I saw potential there for a good character. Yeah. That's the nicest way I can put it. I saw potential there for the character. 2, I actually... Okay, if you are going to modernize it and you are going to introduce new stuff, I actually kind of liked the new tech. I thought that they had some creative...
Yeah, okay.
Not that it needed it, because, I mean, proton packs are like sort of like lightsabers. They're just so goddamn cool. And they're cool when they're used sparingly in the film. Now, this film kind of just went all balls to the wall at the end and just introduced everything. But, like, they all get, like, a unique weapon. And I thought that was kind of a cool way of doing it. Oh, Jesus. And then a third one. The new car was passable. Like the siren. No, is that no? I don't know. I'm really, really struggling to think of.
Was there an actual line of the film which was loud and obnoxious siren? Oh,
yeah. They did say that, and that's a point I want to bring up actually, because this movie, as much as it likes to keep referring back to the original Ghostbusters and make it realize that movie actually happened,
this movie tried to be too meta.
It tries to be too meta. It also likes to screw over the original Ghostbusters as much as it can. Like, the film in general is a middle finger to Ghostbusters, but the fact that... I don't know if this is giving anything away because it's kind of in the trailer, so I don't think I am. The fact that they fight the ghost at the end is almost... You could interpret it like they are actually fighting against Ghostbusters itself and trying to wipe it out. And the fact when they say loud, obnoxious siren... I was like, you can't say that. The siren to the Ghostbusters car is iconic. It's one of the best film vehicles in history. You know? So, yeah.
Like,
go on.
Within that, just this isn't part of the spoiler section, but they refer to the YouTube comment section.
Yes, they do.
They refer to Reddit, which both attacked it full on. Reddit gave it a more balanced opinion. But then, as soon as you see the reviews coming out, it's just like all down. It's all bad from Reddit. I haven't seen a single positive one on Reddit yet.
I'm convinced they used some of the same comments when it shows you that bit on YouTube in the film. That's not a massive spoiler. It's only a little bit of the film, but I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking the same for that too. So, recommendation, then we'll jump straight into spoilers. Tate, would you recommend Ghostbusters 2016?
No, fuck off.
Mic drop. Boom.
I can't. Oh no, I can't say that because when I went to the cinema, it was being advertised next to Secret Life of Pets, and it was noted down as like a PG screening type thing. I know it wasn't, but like all the adverts beforehand were PG. I was like, Jesus Christ, is this a PG film? Really?
Yeah. Well, you know what? The original Ghostbusters was a PG. But my God, that was back in the day when PGs had balls.
That was back in the day where, what was it? I think it's like Deliverance only just made an 18.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, those were the days.
Oh, yeah.
For me, would I recommend? Yeah. Would I recommend Ghostbusters 2016? I would not recommend this movie to my worst enemy. I would certainly not recommend this movie to anyone that has a love or has fond memories.
I would not recommend this movie to anyone who can love.
Yeah. Make that the quote of the review. Ghostbusters, you know, a lot of people rage against Ghostbusters 2. That is just, it's night and day compared to this movie. Ghostbusters 2, I don't care what anyone's, it's like a Temple of Doom thing with me. I love Temple of Doom. I love Ghostbusters 2. I don't get all the hate for it. But this movie, it's, as we've said, it fails on every area it tries to be. It's a film that doesn't know what it wants to be. It's a confused mess of a movie with a completely incompetent director for Ghostbusters in this, Paul Feig. There is no humor. They're not jokes. It's awful writing, awful characters. And you know what? If you want to see Ghostbusters, just watch the original 2 Ghostbusters and leave it at that. That's it. These were the Ghostbusters. And that's where it should stay, with just those 2. It's a shame we never got a third one. It would have been nice to make it a trilogy. But if you're not doing it,
we did get a third one. It's called the 2009 game.
Yeah, make that your trilogy, because if it hasn't got the original cast, it's not Ghostbusters. I'm sorry. That's what my thoughts are. And a lot of people are saying as well that, oh, well, it's not fair to compare this one to the original because it's a reboot.
We can't do anything but compare it to the original. That's the whole point of a reboot.
It's a reboot of the original Ghostbusters. I think it's a completely fair thing to compare it to the original, especially when the original does it better. So that'll do it for our spoiler-free section. So we'll jump into spoilers now. Tate, we've got a lot to talk about with this one.
Can we start with cameos? Because I know that you just said not having the original people in. We did kind of have the original people in some of the worst film cameos I've ever seen.
Bill Murray phones more than Garfield.
Ernie's cameo was good. Other than that, no.
Can I just say, Ernie Hudson has not aged a day.
Oh, not even slightly.
God. Christ, you know, they say black don't crack. You know, my God, he looks amazing. But Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. I mean, Bill Murray, fair enough. I love Bill Murray. Bill Murray's hilarious. He always has been to me. And this, you know, he's just picking up that check. Absolutely picking it. He walks in, he sits down, delivers his lines, and he couldn't look less interested than he is. And
in fact, I don't think I saw him smile at any point.
No. And the character he plays as well, like, he appears on a news network. He's like this really...
I'm sorry, but, like, when he came on screen, I was expecting people to go, oh, or something like that. It was dead silence.
It was sad. It was like, oh, Bill Murray, no. You're better than this. You were in Lost in Translation.
And then we have more cameos with Ozzy Osbourne, with the god-awful cameo.
Why was Ozzy Osbourne in this movie? Please tell me that. I love
He's
Ozzy.
the Prince of Darkness.
I love Ozzy. I love his music. Why was he in this film? And it was almost like a checklist with this film. It was like pointless celebrity cameo, fart joke, and I was just checking them off as I was going down.
If we're allowed to take one good cameo away from this film, it's got to be Charles Dance.
Yeah, the surprise of the goddamn evening. Charles Dance, who has been in 2 bad movies within the span of the last month, with Me Before You and now this movie. But you know what? I mentioned this before we hit record. As soon as he walked on screen, I perked up and was like, it's like he commands a presence when he comes onto screen. I was like, Charles Dance is in this movie. And it was like,
you are the Ghostbusters, you are not the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and he's a character that could have been like the Walter Peck character from the first Ghostbusters, the guy who works for the EPA, is it? And he's like a bit of a dick, and he's like investigating the place. And I thought that's what they were setting up when he was at this university, and he was with was it Kristen Wiig's character? Yeah. There was a lot of neat setup there, and I would have loved to have seen him come back into it, but maybe he read the rest of the script and thought, just put me in like the first 5-10 minutes of the movie and call it a day. The cameo that made me roll my eyes the most, the heartbreaking one, was Sigourney Weaver, as well as, God, I can't remember her name. I'm going to have to check this. The receptionist from Ghostbusters 1. Annie Potts as Janine, seeing her. It was just so tired. It was really tired. And Dan Aykroyd's as well in the taxi cab at the end.
I Ain't Afraid No Ghost was just the line where I was just like, man, that broke my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cinema I saw this in with Tom, the ushers like kept walking in every now and then and looking at the crowd, and they looked over at me at one point, and I was just there like, I was just staring at the screen with utter malice, the entire way through the ending. And I feel sorry for the poor guy at the end of the film because we stopped in after the credits because I heard there was an after credit scene.
I didn't. I bailed hard.
I really wish I'd have left.
As soon as they started dancing in the end credits, I was just like, nah, I'm out.
You haven't heard the best bit with the after credit scene, but after it had finished, the usher walked in. He says, "So, did you all enjoy the film, you guys?" And I went, "No." And he seemed really sad. He was like, "Oh, sorry." And I'm like, "It's not your fault, man. You didn't make the movie. You're just here doing your job, you know." There's a lot more to talk about. I'll go into the after credits scene now. So it's all of them sitting around like the tape recorder where earlier on in the film they do the first fart joke of the movie where they say, "We can hear a ghost make a noise, listen," and it's a fart. So they're listening around that, and one of them's listening to headphones and goes, "Oh my God, one of them just said a word." Then she takes the earphones off and they say, "What was the word?" Dramatic pause, Zool. And then it cuts to black. They're clearly sequel baiting to try and bring... Yes. I cackled at the screen and just went, "Oh, that's so cute, Ghostbusters. You actually think you're getting a sequel from this." So if they do one, it's going to be Zool, and we're going to have Stay Puft in it again, who's not a balloon.
Can we talk about the ending? Just the ending. Because this was the ending that I spoiled to you. By saying that they all focus their fire on the ghost's dick.
Yeah.
Can we all take a moment to appreciate how bad that writing is? And how unfunny that is? And how no one laughed in the cinema when that happened. Everyone just kind of watched just with this bored expression on their faces.
There
isn't really much more that we can spoil about saying the trailers basically ruined everything about the film that could have been exciting.
You get the cartoon logo ghost who turns into a King Kong.
Turns into a cartoon. He turns into a cartoon. Hold on. He turns into a cartoon first, and then he turns into that.
Actually, can we talk about the villain of this film? The villain is just a geek, basically. Yeah. Who is your entire fan base for Ghostbusters, and you make him the villain. I don't know. The depression's kicked in again now from this movie. Like, I will be honest. Like,
it's got to the point now where I've given up so much on this film that I've actually given up on this review.
Yeah. Like the movie has broken us, guys. This is what we get. We wanted to see it for you guys to get a review out there, and this is what it's.
God, wait till we do High Rise. Oh my God.
I can't wait. I actually can't wait.
They really screwed the horse on that one.
For anyone that's seen High Rise, you will get that, right? If you haven't, brace yourself.
Yeah.
You know what? With this film, the first half of it was abysmal, but it was so bad it was good. Like, I was laughing in disbelief at like what they were trying to do.
Do you know, I was getting a Room vibe because I like The Room. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do like The Room. It is a cult classic, but this won't become a cult classic.
No, absolutely. And the first half of it, as I said, I was laughing at what's the name? Jesus, hang on, let me have one. No, Leslie Jones. I was laughing at Leslie Jones just being racist as shit.
I didn't laugh at Leslie Jones at any single point of the film. I didn't laugh at Melissa McCarthy at any point of the film. Actually, no, I did when the guy who played Dopinder came in with the noodles.
Yes, I thought it was him. Yeah,
Karen Sony. That was the only moment where I laughed at like any jokes made by them. Kristen Wiig. I liked the fact that she was like, you know, like a tight, like, oh yeah, I'm a regarded scientist, you know, and then kind of changing her mind, and then still kind of holding that trait all the way through, and having some form of respect. And I liked Holtzman's completely off the wall wackiness. They can do something with those two characters. They can't do anything with the other two.
Can you please explain to me the random dance number she had in the movie?
Which one?
I can't remember the name of the song, and I love that song. I'm a huge 80s fan. It was like an 80s pop tune. And she just randomly starts dancing in the office, and then the scene ends.
I can only assume that they were meant to have that scene in there to show that she's let her hair down, or that was going to be a very similar dance to what was going to be in the film later on.
Yeah, And really quickly before we talk about that, Dopinder, you jog my memory. That was one of the only times I chuckled in the movie. I think it's where she says like, "Show her out, please," and he goes, "Okay, well, it's the same door that you just came in." Like that line, I just went like, and that was it. But yeah, the dance scene that was clearly being queued up. You got Chris Hemsworth, who's been possessed by the villain, and I predicted that from the trailer. I think most people did.
Yeah.
He's like standing on top of the building and he's commanding. Is it all the police? Is it just all the citizens
all the
as well?
Police. All the police.
All the police, and he gets them to strike a pose. And it's like the Travolta, like Saturday Night Fever pose. Yeah. They all do that, and I was like, oh god, they're gonna do what I think they're gonna do. Dance number coming our way, just like the Scooby-Doo movies where they just throw in a random dance number. And it doesn't happen, and then the Ghostbusters show up and just kind of walk through them as they're stood still. And I was thinking, like, I can tell there's something been cut here. And then when it hits the credits, over the credits is that dance number, and I can only assume that was actually in the movie. And then whether it was they watched it back and didn't agree with it, or it got bad feedback in.
No, I think they got rid of it. Oh, bad feedback. But I think they needed something to keep people watching the credits so that they knew about an end credit scene.
But when it got to that bit in the credits, I was like, just let me leave, Ghostbusters. Let me leave. I watched your movie. I paid the money. Let me go. But I had to stay in for the whole thing. Is there anything else we can talk about in spoilers? Slimer has a girlfriend now, and he's kind of what ultimately saves the day. He's driving around the Ghostbusters car in like a kind of party wagon. You've got like a load of ghosts hanging out at the back. And you've got like a female Miss Pac-Man looking Slimer girlfriend. They shoehorn Stay Puft in there in the shape of a balloon. It really kind of reminded me of Tim Burton's Batman film with the balloons at the end when they try to take them out. Man, I got nothing. This film just really took the wind out of me, and I hate the feeling of coming out of a movie and it being terrible. I don't want to go to a film and it be bad. I really don't. There's always that hope there, as I said, that it could change your mind or it could surprise you.
With this film, I came out the cinema and I thought, okay, there is some things to discuss here. There is some things that worked in this film. There's some things that definitely did not. When I came out of High Rise very quickly, I was silent for at least an hour. I didn't speak to anyone at all. Not even my family. None of my family spoke to no one. I got home. I went upstairs. I immediately sat on my bed and just sat through scrolling through my emails for 1 hour because I didn't want to speak to anyone.
Yeah, but you were really hyped for that film, weren't you? That was like your film of the year prediction.
That was possibly going to be my film of the year. I've got hopes now for La La because Whiplash director. So
yeah,
I'm heading out for that. But anyway, that's me done for this. Don't watch this film.
It is a horrible feeling when you just come out absolutely gutted by a film, and I can't say I'm particularly hung up about this film because I knew pretty much exactly what I was getting in for. Every single trailer, featurette, clip was just horrible. It was absolutely horrendous. So because I had that, this film would have been worse if it genuinely did look hilarious, and then I go and see it and it's like this. But because my expectations were below ground level, and they pretty much stayed that way throughout the entire course of the movie, I'm not offended by it, because I think if anyone says, like, it brings up Ghostbusters again, they're always going to go back to the original. This movie will be forgotten instantly. This will have no staying power at all. And I mean, you know what? 30 years on, is it, since this came out? It's still going strong. People still remember it, and it is still one of the best comedies out there. So, recommendation: don't see this movie at all. Buy the original Ghostbusters. Sit down and watch it. Still holds up. It's a fantastic film, and you'll have a great time. Don't give money to this film. It's this whole craze of just going back and remaking old classics when it's not needed. And it's just Sony. You look at their last string of films like Amazing Spider-Man and then this. They're just they haven't got a clue. They were trying to do a shared universe for Spider-Man. They're trying to do a shared universe for this. And I just don't think audiences are going to respond to this at all. At least I hope they don't. If they do, man, it's a horrible time to be a movie fan.
Yeah.
But I've said everything I can on this new Ghostbusters film. It's really just sort of... Well, you can tell how we are now. It's pretty much how the film went. We started off kind of energetic and sort of along for the ride, and then we've just crashed and gone down. But yes, so that'll do it for our review on Ghostbusters 2016. Be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of it. Are you avoiding it? Have you seen it? Is there something we forgot to mention? Please do drop us a comment below, and let's get a conversation going about this film. Although I'm sure most of us that have seen it do just want to move on and never talk about the film again. In terms of what's coming up at the channel this week, we should hopefully be bringing out a lot more film reviews. Now I'm back from Celebration, and I'm sort of free to get back on the channel again. I'd like to really kickstart the reviews again. So obviously this one going up now. Later on in the week, we've got BFG and Star Trek coming out, both of which I'm really, really looking forward to, despite really mixed reviews on BFG. And hopefully at some point too. I mean, I would love to do a review on these two films at some point, even though we've done this. We should hopefully have a review on Star Trek 2009 and Star Trek Into Darkness, because Tate, you've never seen them before, and we need to get you prepped before Star Trek Beyond. And on top of that, there'll be more reactions from me at the end of the month on the 31st. I believe it's our episode 4 of Timestamp Zero. It's one of my favorite series on the channel. It's where we put the vote out to you guys. You get to choose on what film we watch as a commentary.
I will tell you what's going on.
Yeah, these are your picks this time, Tate. I haven't actually seen what's leading the charge at the minute. So
last time I looked, it was level, but give me a minute and keep talking.
Okay. So as I said, Timestamp Zero. We've got the straw poll link, which will be in the description of this video. Literally just click on that and pick which film you want to see us vote. And what we do is we all sit down as a group with the film on at exactly the same time, and we just talk the movie. It could be a film that means something to us. In one case, in episode 2, George picked Rush, and 2 of us hadn't seen the film before, so it could be a first-time viewing experience. It's whatever the chooser of the films decides. Tate, do you have the results up at the minute?
Yeah, at the moment, weeks to go, or yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We got Children of Men on 2 votes, 500 Days of Summer on 7 votes, Cloud Atlas on 3 votes, Oblivion on 6 votes, and Grand Budapest on 1 vote.
Ooh, so it's still really close again. Yeah, I mean, the first 2 times it was pretty much just a walk-away winner. Then mine was really, really close, and now, again, yours is close. So it's all still to play for. As I said, that will be going live 31st of this month, so please do get your votes in for that.
It's literally just updated, and Oblivion is now drawing.
Oh, really?
And yeah, okay, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, well, now back from Star Wars Celebration, I will be editing up all the content on that. I've been seeing a lot of comments saying, can you please do a reaction to the sizzle reel, the behind the scenes of Rogue One? And I will get on that, but I do talk about that in the video. It's a lot of footage to go through that we got there. So I'm going to be editing this week and should hopefully have a video up at the end of the week. I don't know whether to group it as one big video or whether to split it up across a few videos, but I'll decide on that when I'm editing it. So look out for that. Please do hit that subscribe button. And yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff happening on the channel behind the scenes as well. So please do join the Cinema Savvy crowd, because it'd be great to have you on board. So that'll do it for us for today. I'm all Ghostbusters out. I never want to talk about this movie again. Until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching.